everyone, and welcome to, I think it's season 4. I don't know. I think I did a half season somewhere, so we're just calling this season 4 of Motivate Me, formerly known as MotivASHonal. I decided that I wanted to have a new name for the podcast because MotivASHonal made it sound like it was only my story being shared, where that is not at all what was happening on the podcast. We were talking to our guests and they were sharing their stories. So we changed the name to Motivate Me. And it is the same premise, same everything. And I am, of course, your host, Ashlina, here with Nightshade Grim today. But just to give kind of a rundown of Motivate Me, welcome to Motivate Me, formerly known as MotivASHonal, where we sit down with our guests while they share their personal stories on how they stay motivated and overcame some of life's hardest challenges. And for today's episode, like I said, I am joined by Nightshade Grim, aka Jill, and today we're going to be touching on mental health as well as self-advocacy, being a Latina. I'm sure a lot of people can speak to this, especially if you are a Latina person. There are a lot of things that kind of go into this. And just as a trigger warning and kind of like a premise before we get into the episode, I am not a therapist. I am not a doctor. Jill's not either, at least to my knowledge. And we're going to be talking about mental health and struggling. So just be prepared for deep dive into those kind of topics. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. I have my friend Jill here with me, mi hermana. Jill, I would love if you went ahead and introduce yourself. You can drop your socials. You can literally say whatever you want, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nightshade Grim, or Jill, whichever. You can find me on my socials, at Nightshade Grim. And I am a streamer, but besides being a streamer, I'm also an account manager for recruiting. So I have 2 things that I do.
A boss ass bitch, right? Right.
I try.
No, I love it. And me and Jill actually met through content creation through Twitch, like honestly kind of randomly, but I feel like that's like how the best like friendships form. And Jill and I are kind of like family, like rather than friends. We connected kind of immediately, like
instantly.
Instantly. It was just one of those things. And through the process of us connecting, we've been able to share our mental health, stories. And Jill has opened up to me about some things. And I was like, I really would love for you to come onto the podcast and kind of talk about your story and see how we can motivate others to live their best life. So we're going to get kind of into the meat of everything. Again, I dropped the trigger warnings in the beginning, so just be aware. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and get into it. So my first question that I have for you is, what does mental health mean to you? Like, what, especially as a Latina, like what does mental health mean to you?
Oh, what does it not mean? I mean, it's so hard, being a Latina and dealing with mental health.
Right.
Growing up, I didn't think there was any way to get any kind of help,
Right.
And so mental health means a lot, especially as I got older. I started to realize that, I'm not feeling okay.
Right.
And there's something wrong, but I don't know what it is.
Right.
So yeah, I spent a lot of time thinking there was something wrong with me, and I was like, can I even get help? Is there even anyone who can help another person dealing with, sadness and confusion and like life? And so, yeah, mental health, it really does mean a lot to me, especially as a Latina.
Right. And probably, when you were thinking about those things, like at the time, I know especially for me, it was like, oh, well, there's nothing that I can do. This is just the way that it is. Like, this is just who I am. There's no help for me kind of thing. I'm sure that those types of thoughts were going through your head. I mean,
1,000%.
Right.
Yeah.
And then especially like as a Latina, your family kind of shoves that kind of stuff under the rug, and it's like you don't see anyone else in your family talking about it. So you're kind of like, okay, yeah, so something's wrong with me. Clearly, because, my abuelita, whatever, my father, mother, whatever, they're not talking about it. So clearly, like, something is wrong with me. So it kind of sets this base of mental health isn't real. Like, we don't talk about, right.
Yeah, there's like stigmas that surround the Latin community, when it comes to mental health.
Right.
Which is tough.
What were some of those stigmas that you felt?
Well, I just know that showing depression was pretty much something that you had to hide, push through, move on, especially a lot of older Latin folks, they were raised that way, and it was passed down through generations. So family, your family, even if they left, their country and whatnot, they still have those things that they're used to, so pretty much my parents, I love my parents, but
of course,
when it came to me feeling down when I was younger, it was like, you're not depressed. There's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. You got this. Just, you're going to get through it. And that's it. So there wasn't any way of me being able to get someone to talk to, about mental health. It wasn't until I got older and I found out about To Write Love on Her Arms that I was like, wait a second, like there's a whole thing about mental health that I didn't even know about.
Right. There's like a whole other layer to it. Right. And, you kind of helped me discover To Write Love on Her Arms, and they have helped me through, some of my struggles as well, like when I've been really low and stuff. And you make a good point about like being older and being able to have that self-advocacy, because when you're younger, like you feel like you don't have control. You are under someone else's roof. There are rules and there are guidelines and stuff. And being a kid and like being depressed and anxious and all of these things, I got diagnosed with anxiety in 7th grade. And just being a kid and having to kind of navigate that was so incredibly difficult, because I didn't know if it was just me or not, And so you make a good point about like as we get older, because that's where I think we start to realize like, oh, I'm not alone. Like a lot, like a lot of people like actually go through this too, And so you make a good point, and I'm really glad that, you were able to find To Write Love on Her Arms, and I'm glad that they were able to help you through that. And so what do you think like some of your biggest struggles are when it comes to your mental health? Like, what are some things that your mental health keeps you from doing, or like how it makes you feel?
Oh gosh. All right. This is really fun. Yeah, the list. Number 1. Okay. I'm just kidding. So building relationships with people. I have this thing with my mental health where I feel like I'm not good enough. I am just not even worth it, and things like that. And that's the kind of mental health I struggle with a lot. It's just being hard on myself.
Right.
And it keeps me from building relationships, going out and socializing and things like that, because I just feel like people aren't going to like me, and I just get into this thing where I stay at home, and then they get in my head because I'm home and I'm not socializing and things like that. And honestly, if it wasn't for streaming, I probably wouldn't be as social as I am right now.
Right.
And even then it's still a struggle.
Right.
So
yeah. No, absolutely. Do you think like the lockdown and like the pandemic and everything kind of affected that as well?
I definitely think so. Before the pandemic, I had my life, in Miami. Right. So socializing was different. Like I knew everybody, like we would go out, we would do this. And then I started relocating, and I started getting more into my like cocoon of like not knowing how to socialize anymore and get out of that, because I was just, I've lived in Miami my whole life and I knew everybody. So I think as those years went by after lockdown, I couldn't figure out a way to change that mindset of like,
you don't have
talk.
to, right.
It's just,
no, and I only bring that up because that has been kind of a topic on social media and the news, is how the pandemic and lockdown affected like our mental health. And that's the only reason why I bring it up. But yeah, no, I can relate to that. As we both, suffer from a chronic illness as well. And when you're in pain and you're not able to do things, it kind of starts this vicious cycle of, oh my gosh, I'm in pain, I can't do anything. And then, or I'm too tired to really do my daily tasks. And then you're like, oh, well, you're a worthless piece of shit. You are so lazy. And then it just like starts this vicious cycle of like just being so mean to yourself. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I can definitely relate to that, especially when I get like super depressed. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to be alone.
Same. That's me.
And I definitely I kind of relate that part to my father, because every time he was kind of feeling something, like he would just go to work, or he would do work things, or he would just stay busy to kind of like cover up how he was feeling. At least that's what I think, and that's what I noticed as a kid, and I feel like a lot of Latina people see that from especially the man, quote unquote, man of the household. I don't know if your father was ever like that, but my father was always like, no feelings, I'm gonna work instead, kind of thing.
Yeah, my dad, like I said, my relationship with my family it's a little weird because like we get along really well, but I just think with certain topics, we've always had clashing, happen. And my dad has always been a hard worker, but that's just his mindset. Like he loved that. He went to he finished college and stuff like that. He was working since 25.
Right.
He continued school later on. And my dad is just one of those people, like he likes to get shit done.
Right.
And I'm the opposite of that. Like, it's so hard for me. I'm not a school person.
Right.
Once. So like I couldn't even finish school because I was busy working, and I put so much time into working because I was good at it. And getting promotions that I was like, okay, I don't forget school.
Yeah.
Like,
why you need
I don't
school?
want to do it. Yeah.
Right.
And then at that point, my mental health as time went by was like, well, what the hell am I doing with my life?
Right. Oh God. Yes. That question.
I deal with that to this day. Like,
Same.
I'm about to be 32 in 2 months, and pretty much a month and somewhat, because February is like the shortest month of the year. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I still can barely scrape by to just survive with myself.
Right.
Like, what's going on? Like, is this what happens when I didn't go to school and things like that? And then I start getting in my head, and then I start getting depressed, and then it's like a cycle. I'm telling you.
Yeah. It's the
cycle.
The vicious cycle.
Yeah. So like my dad has always been that person, like he's had his struggles.
Right.
And he's gotten through them, but he hasn't gone through it with us.
Right.
If he's ever gone through with it, it's like, talking about it, it's my mom, which is great. Like, they have a really good relationship, even if they fight half the time about dumb shit, like they have like a really good relationship.
Right.
Because he I know for a fact communicates with my mom and vice versa.
Right.
So for him, for like my family, depression isn't like a thing.
Right.
Like if they say it to me like, oh, you're depressed, it's because they're messing around.
Right.
Like they don't necessarily take it seriously. And obviously I've never been the one to say like, I'm depressed to them. Like, yeah, right.
Right. Yeah.
Like I ain't doing that. I have never done that.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, I don't need to deal with what's going to come out of their mouth,
Right.
So getting back to your question, yeah, my dad, if he has had to deal with anything, it's pretty much either he talks to my mom or he's just, focused on how to make things better.
Right. And like work through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like, so for example, like my abuelito, like his story of coming from Cuba to America and like, all of these other things, like not once, like, was it mentioned when I first heard the story. Like now, as I've gotten older, I've definitely asked more questions because like, I know mental health is a thing. But when my abuelito first told the story of, him coming to America, he never talked about fear, emotions at all. It was just, I did what I needed to do to get the work done, to get where I'm at. And that was it, like, period. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh cool, So it kind of like, as a kid hearing that story, which I'm not saying that this is not the case, that hard work pays off. Obviously it does. I know that. It's literally ingrained into my core. But also, you have to take breaks for yourself, and you have to know when to rest. And I feel like if I would have heard, my abuelito say things like, I took this time to rest and really, just be grateful for where I was, like, I feel like that would have shed more light on it. And so I think because we hear these stories too of like our family, they don't talk about the mental health struggles that they go through. It's kind of like, oh, so you just kept on trucking, huh? Like,
yeah,
you didn't experience anything, you know what I mean? And so anyway, I hearing these kind of stories, and I'm sure any kid can kind of relate to this, but I think it's important that our parents share what they're going through, to normalize it for their kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I'm sure you would have felt better knowing, hey, my dad has also been through this, or my mom has also been through this.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I agree with that. So with all of these things, and if you wanted to talk more about some other things that you like struggle with when it comes to your mental health, you totally can. And that kind of leads me into like this next portion is like, do you think like the way you were feeling at the time, do you think that it affected the way like your family treated you, unfortunately?
You mean with my mental health?
Yeah.
I could assume that my parents always thought there was something wrong with me.
Right.
But as usual, they kind of just poke at it.
Right.
Like, and not in the way of like super concern. They just kind of, tell you like, again, like, you're fine. Whatever you're going through, you're gonna get through it. Don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's tough. It
Right.
really is. There's not much for me to say as far as like, nothing really has changed since then. It's just now that I'm older, I can take care of myself and I can do what I need to do for mental health.
Right.
Before it was, I relied on living with my parents and things like that. And everything went through them.
Right.
So I couldn't, I never got a chance. I think pretty much the only thing that really got me through everything in life was music.
Yes.
When I was younger, it was really my passion. I wanted to be a musician. I learned to play the guitar. I did singing. I did all of that. And I used to love it. And it was great. And then I got out of high school. I had to work to help my family. And I gave up on school. That I didn't have time for music. And things just started to fall through the cracks. And so I still, to this day, I will always say that music always saves my life.
Yeah.
And that's the reason how I found out about To Write Love on Her Arms, because they were really heavy into the music. Yeah. They were into the music scene. So, when I found out about them, I started supporting them and things like that. So, now I feel like I've lost track on what we were talking about in the question.
No. This is how a podcast goes.
Okay, yeah. So, it's just, I can rant all day about how music literally just gets me through everything.
Yeah. What was okay, so I remember you telling the story, and you can tell the story for the podcast as well. You went to a music festival, and that's where you saw To Write Love on Her Arms, correct?
That is correct. It was Warped Tour.
That's it.
Warped Tour. That was
the good old days.
I miss those days. I swear they were my favorite things to do every year. I didn't care that I had to drive an hour away or an hour and 30 minutes away to go to my concert. Like, I was like, I want to go see my bands. And then, they had a booth. and I saw To Write Love on Her Arms. I looked it up. They had worked with a lot of bands that I liked, and I was like, oh shoot, mental health. Like, this is interesting. And from there, I started, buying merch, doing, like, even before I became a content creator, I tried to raise money for, through what I had. And I mean, not a lot like I have now, but still a couple hundred there, and it's something. And and it felt good because I felt like people need the resources. I don't want people to end up like me, who like just, had to push down what they felt. And then I know some people don't have the luxury to do that, especially, people who feel worse than that and think about, taking their life and things like that. Like, I haven't been to that point, but a lot more people have, and there needs to be resources.
Absolutely.
So that people can get help. So raising money was definitely a big part into helping others. I've always been like that. I like to help others before myself. And then I always bite myself in the butt. That's my life.
Yeah.
It's like a cycle.
Yeah, I was literally just about to call your ass out.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the one who likes to help everybody else, but not herself.
Right. And, we kind of like, I'm in therapy. I tell you that all the time, but like, through therapy, I've learned that, sometimes we care for others because we just like don't feel like caring for ourselves. It's just easier to care for others, when it comes to taking care of ourselves, like we're so complex and there's so many things. So I get that. But Jill, like, you deserve the love that you give everybody else and the energy that you give to everything else. Like, you deserve that right back. And, as your friend, like, I'll always make sure, to tell you that and remind you of that. And you're so right about the resources too. I feel like therapy, for example, like, I'm in therapy and like I have insurance. Not everybody has that luxury,
Correct.
So how can we, fundraise, which fundraising we do through streaming and everything like that. But like, how can we raise awareness on free resources for people? What was one of the messages that you like happened upon or that you saw when you first like went to Write Love on Her Arms website? Like, what was the first thing you saw that really impacted you?
Oh my gosh, to think about that, my old brain, I can't even. Oh my gosh. Honestly, it's
everything.
They've changed over the years. Obviously, they've had new things that they add to the website and things like that. So, all their quotes change for me. So for me to remember everything, I wish I can be that person, but my brain, I could barely remember what happened yesterday sometimes.
Same.
But their quotes will always be like top tier for me. I always resonate with them.
Absolutely.
Every time I see them quote something, I'm retweeting it, or it's just, I'm always going to. It's my thing.
Right. And for anyone listening, right now, if you have not checked out To Write Love on Her Arms, please be sure to do that. I signed up for their emails. And it never fails. I'll be having like such a bad day or like just going through a really hard time, and I'll get an email from them and like the message is like front and center, like, don't be afraid to rest. Like, resting means that you're taking care of yourself, and taking care of yourself is vital. Like, that kind of message, you know what I mean? And it's like, it always comes at the right time. Always.
Yep.
So go ahead.
So the quote that I'm gonna give you is from actually the first shirt I ever bought off their site.
Ooh, okay.
So I still have it, even though it has holes all over the place.
Ugh, right.
All over the place.
I would keep it too. Because, I would keep it too.
So it's never ever let go of hope.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite shirts, even though I have a ton of freaking holes in the armpit areas. Like, there's just holes all over there.
No.
And my parents would always like, get rid of that shirt already. No.
Yeah. No, like, it that was the turning point for you. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's like, that is something to always hold on to. Absolutely. I would have kept it too. If anything, like, you can cut it and like maybe put it in like a frame and make it like a canvas or something. But yeah, no, don't ever get rid of that.
Exactly.
But you know, to kind of continue with kind of the Latina part of this, you know, a way that I think a bunch of Latina folks can relate to this is like, you know, we're told like very often while we are growing up that, you know, we need to be strong and not show emotions or we'll just fall short or we'll fall behind. And that we have one job and it's, you know, work hard, stay dedicated, and then you'll get what you want. And it's like, okay, so yes, I work hard and I can get the things that I want, but what about all of the in-between things that happen? Tiredness, depression, anxiety, mental health things because I'm pushing myself so hard. You know, like we're never, I mean, I literally don't remember ever having a mental health conversation until, oh my gosh, when I was in high school, maybe like going into college, maybe, like, cause even when I got diagnosed with anxiety, like I didn't talk about it. No one talked about it with me. You know what I mean? So do you feel the same, like that we have so much pressure on us to just keep working, work hard. You have one job, do it. And that's it.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And
just when you think about it, it's mostly because, you know, they came from their countries to start new and be better, you know, and get the opportunities that they wouldn't get in their country, you know, especially when my family left Cuba.
Right.
Like until this day, Cuba still has so many things going on. Like,
right. I was literally just about to say that.
Yeah, and people want to leave, and obviously the government, the U.S. government, of course, is just like, stay away. I mean, not going to say that it's any better anymore now, but there's a reason, you know, why they act that way. They're like, you can't show weakness because then they're going to say like, why'd you come here? You know, kind of shit. Right. And I think that's kind of what the mentality is for the older generation that came into the U.S. because they're like, well, I don't want to give them any excuse to say, why did you come to this country? You know, so they're always pushing to work hard and anything that they feel they need to push down and keep going. And I feel like that's why we get like this, you know, like we didn't know what mental health was because like, nah, we're not going to show weakness, you know, and it's not weakness. Obviously, you know, we've learned that ourselves, because we were open to it. We were open to realizing like we need to take care of ourselves, especially our mental health. Like it's a serious thing. Yeah. So yeah, I 100% agree that that's something that I've dealt with as well. Right. And it's like, keep going.
Yes. And you make such a good point. Like I didn't even think about that. Like, oh, we have to work hard or we're going to be seen as like the weakest link. And like, why did we even come to this country if we're not going to work hard? You know, like, oh my God, like, holy shit, I didn't even think about that. But, you know, that kind of brings up my next point of, you know, often, you know, as kids growing up, we look to our family members. We look to them for how we're supposed to act, how we're supposed to do everything. And a lot of the times, none of those family members were showing emotion. So we learned that we shouldn't either. That was how we picked up on the social cues of, so my family doesn't seem sad about this thing or upset about this thing. So like, maybe I'm wrong. Like maybe I shouldn't feel this way, you know?
Yeah.
So it was a learned behavior. And I know so many other people, like especially Latina folks, can like relate to this because I did not have like a mental health conversation with my grandparents, which, you know, you were talking about the older generations, like they like never talk about this shit. But like with my abuelita, I did not have a conversation about mental health things until I was out of college, like probably almost 30 years old. Like blows my mind that my whole life, pretty much, you know, I go thinking that my family never experiences these things. And now I'm hearing like my abuelita tell like her stories, and I'm like, holy crap. You know, like, why didn't you say anything, or why didn't you do anything? Or, you know, like, we could have stopped this kind of cycle so long ago if you would have like stuck up for yourself. And that's like what I'm really proud of this generation, is that we are learning to stick up for ourselves.
Yep.
And, you know, we're saying no, like, I am feeling this, you know, and I know that I'm not, you know, going insane, or, you know, that terminology. Like, I know I'm not losing my mind kind of thing, you know, like, this is real. And so, and that's a big reason why, like, I got my psychology degree, was because I knew I had went through these things, and I didn't want other people to feel alone, because I did feel alone. And I'm sure you can relate to that, in such a big way, you know? And so when you were going through all of this stuff, like, when was that pivotal moment of like, okay, I need to change. It's time for me to, you know, self-advocate and take care of my mental health. Like, I know it kind of sounds like I'm trying. How old were you when you decided? But like, when was the moment that you were like, enough is enough? Like, it's time to take care of myself, and you like decided to be a mental health advocate?
Ooh, I want to say in my late 20s. Late 20s. 31 right now. So
Yeah.
late 20s. I think it was pretty much, you know, before I even got into content creation, I want to say the year before that,
Right.
I had stumbled upon Twitch, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then, one of my friends, Bloody Faster, is the first one of the first people I really became like a part of her community.
Right.
And she would do these amazing, like, charity streams, you know, $100,000 raising for children,
Right.
oh my gosh, what's the one in May again? I'm sorry.
St. Jude.
St. Jude.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. She, like, her
There's
and
so
almost
many.
always go and like ham into raising money. And it was something else like, well, I can't wait to be able to do that. Like, cause I wanted to get into content creation, cause it looked like such an amazing thing to do, especially to, you know, raise money to help others.
Right.
And that was like in my late 20s. And here we are, you know, a few years later, and I want to say we've raised, oh my gosh, if I had a number for To Write Love on Her Arms, I probably want to say about $15,000.
Wow.
Raised in the last couple of years for mental health. And I'm not even done yet. Like, I want to keep going.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though, you know, I had to realize that I could not be the charity streamer that I wanted to be, like, every month that I would try to do something, because it started to affect me mentally. So I've decided that, you know, when I'm ready and I'm comfortable enough to be like, okay, we're going to do an event, we're going to do it. I know that I always do one in September for To Write Love on Her Arms. That'll never change. Because that was the first one I ever did on stream. And, it's a tradition for me to do it every year. You know, $1,000 if I can't do more than that. You know, like, I just set myself up for like a specific goal, because, you know, it got to a point where I was doing To Write Love on Her Arms, and then Trans Life Align, and then, you know, St. Jude, and then some other ones, you know, thrown in there. And I started, like, it started weighing on me. Like, I'm putting too much pressure on myself to raise a lot of money for charity. I'm doing what I can, and I should not push myself too hard, because I know that I'm just going to get into that funk where it's like, oh my God, we didn't raise enough money. Oh my gosh, we failed. When we really didn't, because we obviously raised something, but it wasn't the goal that I had in mind. So then that just brings me back to the whole mental health thing. So
exactly.
But yeah, that's pretty much when I decided to change for myself and become a mental health advocate, you know. I love the decision that I made, getting more
Absolutely.
involved, and especially with mental health. I just want to make sure people get the help they need,
Oh, for
especially
sure.
those who can't afford to get therapy.
Right.
These resources with To Write Love on Her Arms are so important. And the only way they can keep going is by, raising money.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make sure that they're going to be able to help people.
Right.
So,
And, you bring up a good point, like in your story, in the fact that, when you fundraise, it's very easy to kind of get tired. And, you talked about how like it was affecting your mental health. And I think you bring up a good point in that, like, you can't fill everyone else's cup unless yours is full. And I know we've kind of talked about that before, like privately, but like you can't be the advocate that you want to be unless you are taking care of yourself, because then you're spreading a false message. You're saying, oh my gosh, like you need to take care of your mental health while in the background you're not taking care of yours. That's like not being a good advocate or a messenger, I guess you could, like, you're lead by example. You know what I mean? So, you bring up that point of like, you can't fill from an empty cup, and like, just to kind of touch on, charity streaming and fundraising and stuff for people who might not know or might not understand, but through content curation, you can fundraise for different charities. And Jill, speaks on fundraising for To Write Love on Her Arms. And with that money, that charity organization takes that money that we fundraise and does what they need to do to continue that organization. So for example, for To Write Love on Her Arms, it's providing free therapy for people. It's, sending out a mental health newsletter with resources for where they're located. Like all of these things for mental health that we can't get through just government or through just your regular old, phone book or whatever the hell, like they're providing those resources for you, like giving it straight to you, which is why we continue to fundraise for them, because it's so huge that people have those resources available. Because I know To Write Love on Her Arms, one of their big messages is like it's not too late. It's never too late to take care of yourself. And I feel like people get to a point in their life, and they're struggling really, really hard. And they just say to themselves, this is it for me. Like, this is just what it is. Like, this is my life. And it's like, no, like you can have a better life. You know what I mean? You can feel self-love and, self-care. Like, it doesn't have to be this way. And so I love like your shirt, like never ever lose hope, because it doesn't matter how old you are. You can always take care of yourself, like you deserve that. Anyway, so that's like just a little touch on like fundraising. And I know I touched on it earlier when we, first started the episode, but like you introduced me. I mean, okay. I knew about To Write Love on Her Arms. I knew what their message was, but it wasn't until you told me your story about, seeing them at Warped Tour, everything that you were going through, that I realized like this is so much more than just fundraising for charity. Like, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but like it made me want to help you, like, so you could have the resources. So same to what you're saying about fundraising, like you want people to have those resources available. But that's why I decide to do it too, is so like people like you, my friends, people that I love and people that I care about, like they can have these resources too. I don't know if I've ever told you that, but like you're a big reason why like I fundraise for them, because like you mean a lot to me and I care about your mental health and everything like that. So anyway, just a little side note there.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was a total like side segment on how we fundraise for charity through streaming and everything like that. But yeah, anyways, so I know that we've talked about, ways in which your mental health has kind of made you not want to do things, or it's like weakened you and like things like that. But what are some things that let's like change direction a little bit. what are some things that you've achieved despite your mental health? Like, let's kind of like flip the coin here.
Ooh, achieved. Okay. Well, definitely, I don't think I'd be able to do what I do in my normal job, like move up if it wasn't for that. So I've been able to achieve, even with my mental health, achieve, working hard.
Right.
That is one thing I will literally never be bad at, is working hard. I
Right.
have been that person always to be like, give me something else to do. Let me do this. Let me do that. So I've been able to achieve promotions throughout my entire life of jobs. Like
Right.
it doesn't matter what I've done. If it was the airport, if it was the gym, if it's recruiting right now, I've always been able to move forward, move up. And I
Right.
just always felt good that I was like, I know how to do things, So despite, my mental health, that's definitely something I've achieved, making big moves, like leaving Florida,
Hell
that
yeah.
even with my mental health, worrying that I might not be able to do this, I said, F it, I'm doing it.
Right.
I'm going to make things happen. I want to start somewhere new. I want to do something different. And a few months later, and here we are. And I'm so glad that I made this decision. I've been having a good time.
Moved to Texas.
Yeah, I moved out to Texas. And it wasn't hard to leave Florida. A little bit. Will I always be a Miami girl? Always.
Oh, always. Yeah.
I couldn't see myself living there anymore.
Yeah.
I was exhausted. It felt like so repetitive.
Right.
So making moves, like I got out of my comfort zone, even with dealing with mental health. And I think that's a big achievement.
That's huge.
It's huge, trying to get out of your comfort zone. And I love it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did what I did. So.
Right. And I'm happy that you did it too, because I remember us having the conversation. I'm like, Jill, if you don't like it, you can just move back, but like life is too short, and, it's take risk, take chances, especially on yourself, and you felt so down, and it was like, let's do something about it, and that's definitely something that I'm super proud of you about. And then, you break up a good point to kind of reiterate kind of how we were raised, but that you work hard despite your mental health. So you still have that part of you, as a Latina, to work hard and to keep pushing. But now you have the part of, but I also need to care for my mental health. So it's almost like you found the balance.
Yep.
You found the balance with it, which is huge, and, you've done so many, and like, if I can even speak on some of your achievements, like you've fundraised for charity, you've been able to do content creation, you've been able to build a community, and those are huge achievements, despite what your mental health may be telling you. These are other achievements that you've been able to accomplish and things like that. So, and, I think people sometimes associate mental health with not being able to do things, but like those two things can exist at the same time. You can be, mentally ill and still successful. Those things can exist at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want people to feel like because they're mentally ill that they won't succeed, because that's not true, And
yeah.
So, and again, to kind of like touch on the whole like charity thing, have you been able to do any work with To Write Love on Her Arms, like besides like just like fundraising?
Oh my gosh. So it was super fun. Last February, I was able to collab with them, and then Logitech, and they reached out to me. Do you want to be part of this Logitech campaign thing that we got going on? I said, yeah, of course, I want to be a part of it.
Right.
I even got a chance to go to their warehouse.
Right.
When I was living out in Florida, and they showed me around. They gave me free stuff. They talked to me about how they appreciated everything I've done to help support, and it was so much fun. I had such a great time. Big shout out to Loie out there in To Write Love on Her Arms. They really made me feel like I was doing something good.
Important.
And really important. And like they'd reach out, do you want to do this? Do you want to be a part of this?
Right.
Do you want to come visit us in the warehouse? I was like, yes, there, man. I'm ready.
Yes.
Like, take me. So I love it. I am so grateful. And I appreciate that they've seen the work that I've put into helping them. And it's like, I don't even care about it, but like when they reach out to me and things like that, it just makes me feel like, wow, I'm actually doing something to help. Like I'm actually helping. Like
you are,
cool.
you are, you
like,
are.
And it helps me and my mental health, you know, it makes me feel like, wow, like I'm making an impact, and I didn't think I could with such a small platform that I have, but it's you know, it happened.
Right.
So
and your community's kicking ass.
They kick ass every year, and I try to take it down a notch so that they don't have to stress themselves out like I do.
Right.
So that's why I've started to slow down on charities. But now that I'm, you know, more comfortable later on in the year, I'll be doing some more charity streams, especially for To Write Love on Her Arms and things like that. So yeah, those are some of the cool things that I've been able to do with To Write Love on Her Arms, and I appreciate them like a lot.
Yes, absolutely. And for those who also don't know, Jill and I, we are both team leads for Cafe Cultivar, which is a team that I founded, an all Latina Discord community server where we all can come together and help each other, you know, basically either make a table for ourselves or fucking pull up a chair for us, because we need more Latina voices in the content creation space and in the gaming space in general. So anyways, we are team leads for that. And every year around September is it Suicide Awareness Month or is it Mental Health Awareness Month? I think it's both.
Suicide. Okay, it's suicide prevention.
Okay, that's
suicide
it.
Prevention.
That's it. And that happens to fall on Hispanic Heritage Month. So Jill helps get kind of like a charity fundraiser with Cafe Cultivar and To Write Love on Her Arms set up so that we can fundraise for them. So that is another thing that you have been able to achieve, ma'am. But no, seriously, you keep bringing up the point of like, you know, just taking care of your mental health and realizing like, hey, I might have too much on my plate. And I'm so proud of you for recognizing that, because there is always going to be this desire to want to help others. I feel like you will always have that. But like I said, you can't help others unless you're helping yourself first. And you can't be the mental health advocate that you want to be if you're not giving to yourself as well. So, you know, as your friend and, you know, as someone who's doing this podcast too, I just want to remind everyone, you know, like you have to take care of yourself too. It's not selfish. It is not selfish to take care of yourself so that you can care for others. It's actually the best thing that you can do. And that's kind of like my message. And so same to you, Jill, you know, same to you, but also to kind of round things out a little bit. If someone was struggling right now, like what would be your message to them?
Oh, easy. Talk to someone.
Right.
It could be your best friend. It could be your sister, your brother, whoever you feel like you can really let yourself be yourself with. Because first, that's always going to help you no matter what. Having someone to talk to. If you don't want to talk to anyone, you know, there are resources out there. Cough, cough. To Write Love on Her Arms has great resources. Hit up their website. They'll be able to get you in contact with someone who can help. But take care of yourself, okay?
Yeah.
That's really important.
Absolutely.
You know, if you need a break from a day from talking to any of your friends, do it. Have some time. Do something by yourself. You know, take time to get your mental health, you know, under control. Don't let it get out of control. Listen to music if it helps. Right. I know it helps me. I can sit there, listen to music, singing along, and it'll help me get through a tough time.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to, if you're struggling, just talk to someone, get some help. And I promise you're not going to regret it.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's such a great message, you know, and to kind of compile onto that, if you have the resources as well, seek therapy if you can. It's not for everybody. I'm not going to say that therapy is for everybody. I mean, it should be for everybody, but sometimes therapists make it not for everybody. We'll say that. But, yes, definitely talking to someone and just letting it get out of your head and out of your heart so it no longer takes up room for you, and that way you can make room for other amazing things in life, get all of that stuff out to make room for blessings and cool things that can happen, and also don't put stigmas on yourself, don't give in to the stigmas of mental health where, oh my gosh, they're just so quiet, they just don't say anything, they're always keeping to themselves. And it's talk, let people know what you're going through so that people can help you. So yeah, I definitely agree with that message and appreciate you sharing your story. And I'm glad that, you were able to become a self-advocate for yourself. And, despite how you grew up and everything, that, you were able to overcome that, Jill. I'm really happy that you were able to share your story with us. Thank you for joining me today.
Of course. I was so happy to do this.
Good. I'm glad, because this kind of stuff can be scary, opening up yourself, and sharing your story. It can be overwhelming sometimes, but I think it's important so that we can share how we overcome these things, and hopefully give other people hope that they're able to also overcome. But to kind of end things, I would love for you to introduce yourself again. Just let people know where they can find you. If you want to say any messages from To Write Love on Her Arms, if you have anything that you want to kind of tack on to the end here, I would love for you to do that.
Of course. I'm Nightshade Grim or Jill. I honestly am fine with either or. Just don't call me by my legal name.
Jilly.
So that's not my legal name.
I know.
We approve of that. That's fine. I've had plenty of nicknames throughout my life. You can find me on my socials. You can find me on Twitch. I play a lot of FPS on there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find me on TikTok, Nightshade Grim _ And then you can also follow me on, what else?
All the things.
Yeah, Twitter, Twitch,
Instagram,
whichever.
all of the things.
Instagram, Nightshade Grim. The only one's TikTok that has an underscore because someone has my
of course
name, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, that's, and I'm, if you'd like to know anything about To Write Love on Her Arms, just hit up their website. Or if you want to reach out to me, I'm definitely there for you as well. I will definitely help you navigate To Write Love on Her Arms or get you some help.
Right. And if anyone needs help, that's a content creator or not even a content creator, but if you want help setting up a fundraiser or a charity stream, Jill can help you with that. I can help you with that.
Yep.
So you definitely, if you're out there listening to this and it's something that you want to do as well, please let us know. And yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that you said something and I was like, ooh, reiterate on that. Oh, also, do you have anything coming up, any charity streams, anything that you're doing in the next couple of months that you would like to let everyone know?
As of right now, I do not have anything planned out. I'm working on it, but we do have the Café Côté Rod team is raising money for, American Heart Association. American Heart Association. So make sure to support all of them over there during that time. And we will be on the Café Côté Rod channel, myself and another team lead, playing some Baldur's Gate while he raises money. So if you'd like to go support that, definitely stop by at the Café Côté Rod channel.
Absolutely. Jill, again, thank you so much for joining me. What an incredible talk. Seriously, I even needed it today. It's good to kind of just talk about things. You know what I mean?
Agreed. I agree.
But yes, no, thank you for joining me. And for everyone out there listening, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that this story and Jill's story impacted you in some way, shape, or form. Just a little announcement to kind of round things out. We do have a new YouTube. If you type in Motivate Me Pod, P-O-D, you should be able to find the new YouTube. I am in the process of getting all of the old episodes over, and then this episode will be posted on there by the end of January. So if you're listening to this, that means it's posted, it's there already. But be sure to subscribe to the YouTube and hit the notification bell so you know anytime a Motivate Me episode is uploaded. And also, for the moment, to take care of my mental health as well as my physical health, episodes are going to be once a month until I can kind of pick things up and do it twice a month like I was doing for seasons 1 through 3. But that's just to kind of round out everything. Again, I'm your host, Ashlina. You can find me across all socials, Ashlina, ASHLINAA. And yeah, that is going to be it. Do you have anything else that you would like to say to round out the episode, Jilly?
I do hope this conversation today helps somebody out there. And if, again, make sure you talk to someone. Doesn't matter whoever you trust. And if it's not someone you trust, you can find resources again. And I hope you guys have a good one.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. That was so sweet. But yes, thank you all for listening. And this is episode 1, season 4 of Motivate Me. New name, same premise, motivating people to live their best lives. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.